So I kept working as if, okay, if I have my wildest dream, how would I perform right now to make sure that when that opportunity comes, I'm prepared? Representation and for us to tell our stories is so important. And sometimes I think it can be so easy to be like, well, what am I gonna say? Or I don't have a story. But a huge part of filmmaking is living. And from your lived experience overflows the content and the stories that you tell.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Production Notes podcast. I'm here at Loyd Studios. My name is Malik Loyd, head of production at Loyd Visuals. I'm here with Tyla Barnes, overall creative director, visionary, amazing filmmaker, and excited to talk a little bit about your journey.
Okay, cool. So my name's Tyla Barnes. I'm a director, creative storyteller, world builder is what I say. Based in Charlotte, North Carolina, but have had experiences all over the world. I really just enjoy amplifying people's stories, getting to the root of why they are the way that they are, how things came to be, and kind of exploring that world. So, yeah.
Are you from Charlotte, like originally?
No, so I'm actually from Virginia. Shout out to the 757. I'm from Virginia, from like the Hampton Roads area. But my dad was in the military, so we traveled around a lot when I was growing up. And then when I was, like teenage years, we came here.
So what was that first spark for you when you were getting into your creative element? What was that driving force to get you to like become a filmmaker or a creative?
Yeah, so actually I wasn't really in like the arts back then. I wasn't in film. I kind of, I enjoyed movies. I enjoyed watching like the behind the scenes of different movies. Twilight was like one of my favorites. I watched that disc like front to back so many times. So just kind of like seeing the behind the scenes and stuff was cool, but I never really thought that it could be like an actual career. So I started off just kind of doing things like the traditional route. And I started off in the medical field. So in high school and middle school, everything that I was doing was surrounded around going to be a doctor and going into like oncology. And you have this idea of what you think things should look like and what the traditional thing is. And then when you're exposed to something different, it just opens up a whole new world for you. So, yeah.
Was your family pushing you to go either which way, either the doctor route or the creative route?
They don't ever come out right out and say it, They were always supportive of whatever I did, But I think that there is kind of like an underlying thing of, okay, well, if I do tell them that I want to create for a living, what that would do or what that would be like. So I think that fear for a little bit of, what if I came out and just said this straight out, like what that would mean to them and didn't want to disappoint anybody, that kind of kept me in that field for a little bit longer.
Yeah. Nice. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people who may be watching this who are part of the membership community that we're building, who are just finding a way into the industry. They may be, solo videographers, solo filmmakers who are just trying to figure out the game of like how to excel or like how to elevate. So how was that journey for you getting started? Like what were the steps you took to like move up in the industry?
Yeah, so I started off, like I said, in the medical field. I went to school for bio pre-med, and then, I kind of did some soul searching and just realized I love to heal people. I just didn't know how. So I changed my major to journalism and communications. And at that point, I knew I wanted to do film. I kind of had an idea that that was the route that I wanted to go in, but the school that I was at, Hampton University, the real HU, didn't have that major. So it was kind of like, okay, so how can I make this experience the best for me while staying at this school and trying to figure that out? And really journalism and really anything that you come from is all about storytelling, and writing and words are the foundation of film. It's the foundation of what we do. So I majored in journalism and communications. I took every opportunity that I possibly could to practice. Even sometimes it was not glorious. It wasn't like I was getting paid buku money, and I was probably working too hard for too little pay. But every rep that I had, I would always write down like different things that I learned. And that was just a practice that was just like taught me the discipline of being able to reflect on my work. So in college, I would just go and I would just film videos for organizations and brands and anybody who would allow me to, really. And after that, it was just kind of like, all right, like, let's just keep going with it. So I graduated during the pandemic. So we can all imagine like how that was.
During or before? Things closed down?
Things closed down in March. I was supposed to graduate in May.
Okay.
So it was like peak everybody in their house, like nobody come out. So I had things lined up. You know, I thought that, you know, you graduate and you get the job and then you get the house and then, you know, all those things happen, but you pivot, you know, and there's so much power in the pivot. So I started off PAing on sets. Luckily, there were some shows that were still happening here in Charlotte that I was able to hop on. So I started as a PA, getting people's coffee, running errands, you know, getting people's lunch, working with the actors, making sure the actors and the talent were on schedule. And that's kind of where I started. But every single time that I would have a free weekend, and in showbiz and on movies and television sets, those days are so long. You know, it's like 12 to 14-hour days, sometimes more, for at minimum 5 days a week for months at a time. And, you know, it kind of wears on you, but I knew that there was something else coming. So I kept working as if, okay, if I have my wildest dream of what I feel like is about to happen, how would I perform right now to make sure that when that opportunity comes, I'm prepared? So even on those sets when I was PAing, I was shooting a music video in Atlanta, you know, for The Low or doing something like that. And those reps led me to that one thing that I knew my spirit was telling me was coming, which was a project with Beats by Dre that they let me write and direct.
I want to take a step back and kind of sit on the journey to get to that first opportunity that you talked about. So what were your early influences? So you mentioned part of it is just the hustle of just like going out there, getting what you want and trying new things and like trying different things and getting those reps up. But were there any other like influences, you know, people that you looked up to that kind of helped drive you in those moments?
Yeah, so I was always really drawn, of course, like you have like the Ava DuVernay, like everybody, you know, I mean, just like a powerhouse like that, people like that. But I also drew a lot of references and kind of influence from a lot of like music video creators. I love Karina Evans. I love Lacey Duke, just really powerful women who are really, really like doing it in the industry. But I also just drew a lot of influences from music and like fine art. So I think more than even like watching other people's films and stuff, I was like studying like movement and color a lot. And that was just in the discovery of trying to figure out what I wanted to do when I was still doing like bio pre-med and stuff. I just knew I was drawn to like that type of thing. So I would study a lot of just like fine art pieces and more of like that type of way. I thought I wanted to be like a museum curator, honestly. That's what I had originally thought, but yeah, that's kind of what it was. It was more of like just drawing instances and influence from life as well as different forms of art. It wasn't just singular to just like filmmaking.
Yeah. That's awesome. And then practically, so you have these influences, you have that drive to know that you want to do something more or want to do something bigger. What were the things that you did? Like, who did you reach out to? Did you go to like different platforms to like get opportunities, or what were you doing at that time?
Yeah, honestly, I was fumbling through it. I was learning through it. But one thing that I'm really thankful for that I did now is that I made it known what I wanted to do. And I think sometimes, especially when you're on sets, like the movies, like, you know, the Lifetime or, you know, whatever movie sets you are, it's often like if you're a PA, just hush. Like, don't tell people, don't be too ambitious. You know, don't say that you want to be this director because right now you're not doing that, you know? And it was always kind of like this air of like, keep whatever you really want to do on the hush. And when you'll get there, you'll get there. You know, I had one of the, you know, somebody tell me when I was on set, like, oh, that probably isn't going to happen till you're like in your late 30s or 40s. And I'm like, well, who says, you know? So one thing I'm really thankful for is that I made it very known to the people who were around me what I wanted to do. And they would connect me with so many people that majority of my opportunities still to this day have come from a lot of those people. The Beats by Dre project, actually, the executive producer of the show, Charles Randolph Wright, he was, I was getting his food. Like I was legit, I was getting his food as a PA. I wasn't assigned to him, but we were just drawn to each other. And one day I was just like, yeah, like I want to do what you do. Like I want to direct, I want to write, I want to do shows. And he's the one who ended up writing my recommendation for Beats by Dre. And he knew somebody there. And I think that's a huge reason of why. But had I never shared that, had I never been vocal about, yeah, I'm here right now, but this is the goal, I don't know if that would have happened.
Yeah.
So
I think that's a good point of like sharing selectively, of like with the right people. It's like the people who you know are going to support you in your journey, like share your dreams, share what you want to do. But there's always going to be people like in the industry, people who are like around who may discourage you or just say like, yeah, you can do that. But like, you know, there's going to be these obstacles to get there. And it's important to surround yourself with, you know, the people who are going to like help grow you. So no, that's awesome. And then, so you mentioned he got you an opportunity or helped get you an opportunity to direct the Beats by Dre commercial or short film. Is that your first like directorial, like official, like directorial project?
I was doing, like I said, like little music videos and stuff, but like by a brand. Yeah, that was the first one. And it was a heavy lift, but I think, like I said, I fumbled through it. I grew through it. I grew into leadership. I grew into strength. I grew into discipline. I grew into all of those things during that opportunity. Yeah.
I think what would be cool is if we can look at that film as well and then compare it to some of your recent films to see like where you've improved something that you've learned along the way. I think that would be very valuable to people. So, but no, that's awesome. In regards to just the general process, so you got this project, right? And I think a lot of people, whether they're starting out or they're like already in the process, they're always preparing for the right opportunity. And the opportunity that you got with Beats by Dre obviously was that moment for you. What was the process of getting your ideas out and communicating that with the crew and like some of those technical aspects?
Yeah, so with it being my first one, I think I had to do a lot of studying. And we hear this all the time, like where preparation meets opportunity. And I think that's the quote, maybe something like that. But I just had to prepare so much. And I think that being somebody who hadn't worked with that many people before, because I mean, I had...
How many people were there?
Cast and crew was about 30 people.
Okay. That's a lot for
a first film was insane. And I was just like, man, praying. I was like, please, like, let me, every word that I want to say, let it come out right. Like, let me communicate this vision, accordingly. So even prior to that, but that's why I say, like, the reps that I had, I was learning that on a smaller scale and I didn't even realize it. Even though I was only working with 8 or 9 people, like the way that I was talking to and learning how to communicate with a DP, with an actor, during those projects that I thought, no, it's just a music video, or it was just like a little promo video, like those skills translated to that. So when I got on set, I think even like with that preparation, I felt so much more prepared than I actually realized that I was. Because it's almost second nature. It's like it's in you, and then the opportunity brings it out of you. The conditions, the environment will bring those characteristics out of you. So I think that communicating with, people, just being mindful of like that it's a collaboration. Like I may be a director and like in some way leading this, but we are all leading this just in different areas. So it's always knowing that there's things that each of us want to get out of this. and there's somebody who we need to reach. And so keeping that in mind and keeping the main thing of knowing like this isn't about us at the end of the day. Like it's about the story. It's about the person who we may never meet on the other side of the story who is going to get something from this. And if there's any type of burden that is keeping us from getting there, like let's figure that out. Yeah. So I didn't do everything right. I messed up a lot. Let me just say that. I messed up a lot. And I thought that it was going to be, perfect, ABC, we cool. No, I went over time. Like my shot list, I was over there making up shots because I was like, wait, that doesn't work. Once I got there, but I never experienced that. And
what year was this?
2021.
2021. Okay, so about 4 years ago.
Yeah. So in that, it was just like being able to talk to people like people, and just knowing that, I'm leading this, but we're leading this together. Yeah. And we cannot do it without each other.
Yeah. Did you have like a first AD or anyone who like you were able to kind of bounce off of and they were able to direct as far as like communicate to the crew and things of that nature, or was it you kind of communicating to each department where you wanted?
So I had an amazing DP, Brian French, who we hadn't worked together before that, of course, since it was my first one, but he was so gracious with me and like so patient with me and like understanding, like, look, you're good, so I would tell him the vision and tell him like kind of like what I was looking for. And after we went through the shot list and scouted and stuff, and he like visually led everything. And it was just like, I was so thankful for that because I just had never had somebody to be like, okay, this is what's in my head. And then he took it and then he just amplified it even more. So I had a first AD as well, who was, there keeping me on track and on schedule. Again, I wasn't very good at that at first, but we've gotten better.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I think that brings up a good point that I was going to bring up later, but that director DP relationship, I think that's one of the key elements to any film, commercial, whatever you're working on. It's like the vision and then the person who's actually able to like put the technicals and the lighting and the cameras in place to make that vision come to life.
For sure.
Talk about that first interaction that you had with someone that you didn't even know, to now where obviously you collaborate with a lot of DPs in Charlotte and beyond, but how important is that relationship? And then practically, how do you go about collaborating with a DP?
So that relationship, like it's a team effort. Because if you were to ask me right now, like how I would like, so I have absolutely no clue. Like I know it because I've seen, you guys do it and my, DPs do it before, but they're such masters in their craft that it really is like okay, I'll manage this part, you manage this part, and just like having that, that relationship, you have to, one, respect each other and just respect that each of you are working in a craft and doing, are the best at what you do. Two, it's understanding that, there are some projects, there's like 3 R's. It's like some projects are for revenue, some projects are for relationship, and some projects are for your reel. And identifying that if it should reach 2 of 3 of those things. And depending on what those 2 or 3 are, that's how we know what we kind of need from each other in that moment. So kind of identifying that in the beginning and just being like honest. If it's a low budget, being like, look, I'll be honest with you. Like, this may not be the one that's going to like take us up a notch, but this relationship is going to be one that might last a couple of years. So identifying that, I think, for both of us is important.
That's key. The 3 R's, I might have to take that. That's that's the easiest way I've heard someone explain how to take on projects and like how to choose the right projects. Is like you either got revenue, you either got relationships, or you either got something for your real. So, no, I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's how I kind of like, coming into it with another person. But also, and this is something that I think people sometimes like don't do, but necessarily, but like, I think it's so important just to be like, just to like the person. Like, if I'm being honest, like just to enjoy being around them. Like, even if we're not working, like we can go out and get coffee or we can go out and get lunch. I think that's so important. And I'm a director sometimes where like, if I'm working on a project, I'm going to be sending you references. Like I'm texting you references like, oh, like check this out, you know, in the middle of the day, like when we don't have anything scheduled. So finding somebody who can respect the cadence or at least work within the cadence that you work in is important. And if it doesn't happen like that, that friction is going to start at the top and it's going to trickle down to the bottom. And by the time you're on set, everybody's miserable because you didn't take the time to build the relationship, build the trust between each other in those beginning stages.
And what I'm realizing too is like when you first start out, part of it is the vision and then also the technical aspect of how to shoot a film.
Yeah.
But a huge element of it are those soft skills and those relationship building things that have nothing to do with your ability to pick up a camera or like create a storyboard. It's like, how can you relate to the crew members, to the actors, to everyone that you work with? Is that something that you kind of have learned along the way as far as how to talk to actors, making them feel comfortable, making your crew feel comfortable? I guess what are some experiences that you've had with building that up?
Yeah, I honestly can't say that part of it took practice. Because I think that even just growing up, and this is even part of just like understanding your own story and understanding where your strengths are, is like growing up and like traveling. We lived in Japan, we lived in Hawaii, like being able to like live in different places and always like being able to have to adapt. I think that afforded me the opportunity that when I walk in with certain people that I can kind of discern where they're at and meet them there. So I can't necessarily say that part took a whole lot of like learning. I think it was just more of like understanding people and people's psychology a little bit. Like you kind of had to be a people watcher in this business. You know, you kind of got to understand what makes people tick and what makes people feel appreciated and what makes people upset. And, you know, it's different for everybody. But I think the biggest way of learning how to do that and learning how to talk with actors is really just like understanding them as a person first and not as an actor. And that goes for your crew too. So I think that is kind of like the best way of kind of like learning that. It's just like observing, speaking with them, form the relationship as if you're not even directing anything first. Yeah.
And I think seeing how you direct, we've had you on a couple of films or a couple of commercials, ads that we've worked on.
Yeah.
And it seems natural to you, which
Thank
it is,
you.
to
I
like
appreciate that.
connect with people and build relationships on set. So I think that's one of the most valuable assets or skills to have as a director, and just like in the industry in general.
For sure. For sure.
And then as you're building that, you kind of build other people up to have the confidence to do what they're doing as a director, as whatever their crew role is.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's key.
And I was talking to somebody about this yesterday actually, but it's like, it really just comes down to the fact that you're just a vessel and you don't know what that person may need. And yeah, we are, you know, doing this project or whatever, but ultimately I'm just a vehicle, like to get the project there or to meet somebody who may need something that I need, something that took me years to learn, like somebody I may meet may need that. So I think it's like understanding, we're all just vessels in this. So
for sure.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. So as you're going through this process of directing your first film, doing all of that, I guess out of the 3 R's, how would you categorize that one?
Real?
Yeah.
I'm honestly gonna say all 3. That first one was definitely an all 3 type of thing. It literally was just, it was just such a good experience. But again, it's like, had I not prepared, had I not worked, my behind off, those days and those weeks and those months prior when I didn't want to, it may not have happened like that. So I think for that first one, Beats by Dre was definitely a 3R.
Yeah, that's awesome. And obviously it got you to other opportunities, other relationships, other revenue. But after directing that, what was the next step for you? Like, are you still working as a PA, production coordinator, and doing things on your own, or is it just like is that the moment where you decided, like, okay, I'm gonna go full force into just directing and just doing that?
No, so actually when I was doing that project, I was still PAing. So I hadn't actually hopped into project coordinating yet, or production coordinating. I was still PAing. And I think that, I learned so much during that. And I think it's very important, and this is something that I had to learn the hard way, was like knowing where and when your grace ends for something. And for me, I know the signs of I know when I need to move on, or I know when something isn't right. So I think I was like, okay, PAing, great. I think I've learned all that I can learn in this role. And I was, so thankful that the terminology, the connections, all those things that I learned during that time. And I was like, okay, so what's next? Like, what would moving up in this look like? So that's when I started going into production coordinating, going full time and learning like the logistical side behind a set. Because before I was more on, like I said, talent management, and I would see everything kind of from an outward view. But then I got to go inside of projects and see, okay, how are decisions being made? Like, how much money are we allocating for certain things? And that's kind of when I knew that this was, that logistical side was something that I lacked, that I needed to learn to get to wherever my next spot was.
Yeah, that's key. And I know a lot of people know what a production assistant is, but a lot of people might not know what a production coordinator is.
Yeah.
Can you explain the differences of that and like what the different roles are?
Yeah, so for a production coordinator, you're usually overseeing production assistants if it's like on commercial sets or documentaries or stuff like that. If it's on a movie, you are more on like the planning and operation side. So a little bit different depending on the one, because production coordinators usually on movies are not on set. They're more in the office. If you're on commercials, branded content, documentaries, those production coordinators usually do come on set. So again, it's the logistical side of working under producers and kind of helping them with everything that they need. So whether that's talent releases, getting more into like the paperwork, getting more into the budget, securing gear, securing crew, helping the producer, whatever is funneled down from them, lock those things in, whether it's making connections, dot connecting people, places, things. That's mainly what production coordinating is about, is more of everything that the production assistant did on the logistical side and the operation side.
Yeah, so kind of more so like a mini producer.
Yeah.
Helping to like get things done.
Exactly.
Get things confirmed.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. So what are the things, as you were going through the process of learning the logistical side of filmmaking, are there any like key things that you took away from that experience or learned that kind of translated into your directing experience?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely learned a lot about like the money aspect. Like I said, I didn't know any of that before. So as a director, what I took from that is, okay, if I have a project and I know that this is kind of the scale of it, if I want a steady cam, I might have to sacrifice somewhere else. And where would be the best area to sacrifice that money in if I want to spend it on something like a steady cam? If I want to spend more on gear, where would be the best place to take it from? Can we take it from, having one hair makeup person or one costume person instead of two? Or are we shortening the days? Are we doing less days so that we can afford that? So I think being able to learn how to allocate the money as a director gives me an idea of, okay, if I want 5 white stallions, we might be eating Subway, or, like we might be doing like certain things so that we can kind of suffice. So I think that was one super great thing, was just like budgeting, learning how the money moves, where it moves to, and like different margins for things. And then also, I would say time management for sure, making the schedules. Like I said, that first project, like I was overtime, like super overtime. But that's just, I didn't have the logistical knowledge to know, oh, a setup does not take 15 minutes on something like this, you know? It's gonna take an hour and a half, 2 hours for you to get this done. So I think that time management aspect, and now as a director, learning that from building schedules as a coordinator, is like, okay, I have 2 hours left. We can do one setup and 2 things of B-roll, and like that's kind of all we got.
And what people don't realize too is like as you get more crew, as you get larger budgets and larger crew, it doesn't necessarily make things quicker
at all.
Like you have to be able to schedule appropriately, like before you even get to set. To know, okay, do we need to rearrange this? Like if you have a Steadicam, you need to bunch all of your Steadicam shots together, even if they don't make sense or are out of order in the film.
For sure.
So those are key things that I think people who are maybe used to shooting with smaller crews or by themselves, I guess take for granted. But basically the bigger the crew, the more, essentially the more people you need to manage the crew.
Exactly. And that I actually was a director's assistant on a movie not too long ago, working under David Michaud, and an amazing director from Australia, directing the Christy Martin biopic. And I got to just watch and learn from him. And that was one thing that I literally took from it, is he's sitting here on a, $20 million movie, and he's still sitting here, asking the same questions that I ask on set. It's like the problems don't change. The budgets change, and you have more people to fix the problems, but then new, more expensive problems arise.
For sure.
So you got to learn how to manage those smaller problems first.
No, that definitely makes sense. Well, cool. I think what we're going to do next is just break down some of your projects. Before we get to that, is there any, I guess, next goal that you have for yourself that you're really looking forward to? Any plugs that you want to pop in there?
Oh, I don't know about plugs. Next goals, I mean, it's just to keep doing this. It's just to keep telling stories. It's just to keep impacting people. It's to keep helping and bringing others up with me as I climb. That's a shameless plug right there. I don't, I can't say there's like a specific project that I'm like, I'm excited about all of them right now. So hopefully you guys will see them soon. But yeah, just keep creating, I guess. Keep creating and keep doing it.
First, before we get into it, can you explain more about this project and like the concept of it, the storyline?
Yeah, for sure. So this project was done in collaboration with Beats by Dre and their Black Creators Lab. And I did it based on the story of me as a Black woman and my natural hair journey from childhood to adulthood, and finding liberation and freedom and the power that I possessed all along.
Ow, Mom, you're hurting me.
Look, I'm sorry. I don't know what you did with your hair, but I could barely get my fingers through it.
It's called natural.
It's nappy.
Got some good actors.
Thank you. That's actually my cousin.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
The one who came in here.
Oh, when we were filming? Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so talk about this scene. One, did you write the script fully? Like, was there anything in here that was like brought out by the actors or your cousin who came in?
Yeah. So when I wrote the script, it flowed a little bit, honestly, more choppier than this. So I was aware of that and trying to find kind of creative ideas that we can use to kind of like amplify it. One of my biggest references was If Beale Street Could Talk. And I love how they do that solo portrait shot. So we kind of added that in there just to give that conversation a little bit more depth, to always like shoot from the perspective of the actors. So this was just a scene that I'm sure so many, women and girls can relate to, of like your mom doing your hair. And I just really wanted to capture the essence and the innocence of our main character, Maya. So with that, it's like even like the colors of like the pink shirt and the stripes, trying to emphasize just that unaware kind of feeling of not realizing that there's a standard that she's not really aware about that she has to conform to.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So there's a lot of pieces. I'm just looking at this as a wide frame. What intentional decisions did you have to make as a director? So you mentioned the wardrobe.
Yeah.
Talk about set design. Like what are all the things that kind of went into this scene?
Yeah.
As far as like planning it out.
So for this one, this living room didn't look like this, but what I wanted was a lot of symmetry, and the goal was through my themes and stuff was like matching that symmetry through the film with like the rigidness of what like Maya actually is and like who she actually wants to be. So you see the chaos on the floor, which kind of is supposed to represent that, but you see the symmetry in the lights, the pillows, you know, the nightstands, the mirror directly. We kind of like placed all of that there so that the mom is on the playing field of things that are more structured and more in line and uniform.
Yeah.
Where Maya is, it's not like that, and that's okay. So like we definitely worked with my art director, Amanda and Medina, and she kind of helped me build that world. There, as far as colors and stuff, it really was just give that warmth of the same living room that I grew up in, and like just like the icky like 2008, you know, 2006 feeling. So we wanted to play with that warm color and like the textures and stuff that were kind of prominent back then.
So was all of this here like in the house and you just rearranged it, or did you have to bring in a bunch of props?
So the couch is actually a curtain.
You put a curtain on top of the couch?
Yeah,
Oh,
like
nice.
so like that pattern is not the actual couch, it's a curtain. The couch is, I want to say green or blue, but as you can see, we had those kind of like messy blankets on it to kind of like cover it up. But hopefully until I told you that, you didn't know that.
Yeah, no, I had no idea.
Okay, cool. So yeah, that is actually a curtain. The nightstands or the stands next to it were there. The carpet we brought in, all of the hair stuff we brought in, the blankets we brought in, the pictures and the things on the side we brought in. Those are actually my grandparents.
Nice.
So just like little Easter eggs.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's why I love these like breakdowns, because I love hearing the Easter eggs and like the little things. Cause, it's just it's that little thing that kind of adds that personality to the image.
For sure.
No, it's awesome. And then I don't know if this was a art direction or cinematography perspective, but I noticed that the couch is pulled off a little bit from the wall to put the plants back there. That adds some depth to it. Is that intentional? Like, is that something that you...
It was. That was a call with Brian and Amanda that we made. And that couch actually wasn't there. I think there was a flat like bench that was there. So the couch was on the other side of the room. And then we moved it there. It didn't have like a wall behind it, but there was a fireplace on the other side. And we didn't really like how that looked because it didn't give that same symmetry and kind of like flatness. And then we put that mirror there to kind of like add to the symmetry of like mirror in the middle, 2 plants on the side, 2 lamps, 2 side tables, 2 pictures, and everything there.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
All right, so we got these POV shots. I'm assuming you probably had to kind of cheat her into the room a little bit to get the close-ups.
Yeah. So we, completely removed the mom when we were doing hers, and then completely removed her and just turned the camera around when we were doing the mom's angle. Of course, you give them an eye line to look at. So they were looking basically like right past the camera on these ones. And at first, one of the mistakes I made was having them look on the opposite side, but I had to align where their eyes would be realistically if the other person was standing there. So originally she was looking off to the left side, but that didn't make sense.
So they're not looking directly into the lens here? They're looking like past it?
No, they're looking like right above it.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
That's a good note to think about, is like the eye lines and like how 1 inch to the right and 1 inch to the left is a huge difference.
It's a huge difference.
The perspective that you're trying to
exactly
give.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm going to go to a recent project that you did.
Yes.
And we could break down some scenes here. So give us a little bit of a backstory on this project as a whole.
Yeah, so I got hired to do this project by my good friend Kai McNeil's company, Indigo Child, in collaboration with Poder NC. Poder is an organization that supports, amplifies Black and Brown voices in the political sphere, giving them information as well as advocating for bills and laws to be passed that are cognizant of people of color. So Love is a Choice, they kind of came to me and said, hey, we want to do something during the time leading up to the election that kind of makes a statement on reproductive justice. And originally it wasn't a 3-part series, I don't believe. I think we were just gonna do one film.
Yeah.
But I thought it was wise to do the 3 parts like an act structure. And one thing that is really prevalent and that I always remember, my mother's Puerto Rican. So I always remember going to my abuela's house and like seeing the novellas on TV and like my mom always watching them. So we kind of aligned on that idea of like, okay, like let's make this novella a 3-part series about reproductive justice and take a look into a couple, into one person. And one thing about taking stories like this that usually have like a big advocacy thing or a big message that they want is taking the idea from a big scope and then zooming in on one specific story to be able to amplify the bigger issue.
Yeah.
So we took a look at a couple in this one through this 3-part series.
Moments braver than we are.
That was a solid, like I remember watching it and I was like, dang, this is
I appreciate
a fire film.
I'm very thankful, very, very proud of this one. I'm proud of all of them, but
Yeah.
proud of this one.
Okay, so there's a lot of different factors that go into directing this and like building it to what it is. One is the script and the setup of each scene. So what went into the script writing process, and then did you like storyboard it, or like how intentional were each of the shots that were in there?
So this one definitely pushed me to a new level, the same way that the Beats by Dre project did. It just kind of like said, okay, let's take it up a notch. And I'm so thankful to have some of the same people who are on the Hair Days project, like Brian French, who DP'd it, there with me during this one too. But during the scripting process and the ideation process, the client knew that they wanted kind of like a voiceover, something poetic. And she showed me an Indigo Child, this amazing poet. She's the #1 poet right now,
Nice.
I believe, in the United States, Ayanna Florence, and she just so happens to reside in Charlotte. So she had done previous pieces kind of surrounding topics like this, surrounding, civil and social justice. So we thought it'd be the perfect combination to have her kind of lens this. So me and Ayanna sat down at Optimus Hall for like, I don't even know how many hours. And we were just like crafting of like, okay, what does this sound like? What does this feel like? When this episode ends, what do we want people to walk away with? And the master that she is, like she just and came back with a bunch of stuff, and we just workshopped it and worked through it, saying, okay, maybe we can change this around. The first version is rarely ever the version that stays. So you have to be okay to adapt and to change, because honestly, what we had at first wasn't this. But through different revisions and talking and sitting on it and being open to different influences and stuff, we were able to come up with this. So yeah, worked with her and wrote the voiceover.
And then part of it too is that feedback process with the client is like, you have to have the internal dialogue with building the world, and then also make sure you get their approval from client. Exactly. How was that process? Were they easy to work with?
Yeah, honestly, Irene over at Poder NC, Kai, Eric, Jeffrey, all of them, they were just so receptive and so welcoming and just so gracious with allowing me to explain my vision, and then being able to say, okay, maybe we want to add this, or maybe we want to add that. But they gave me such freedom to create. And I think it's such a gift when you get to have that. That is very rare. So with client and stuff, it was definitely a collaborative process. I mean, she is a true storyteller and a true artist herself. So she understood the reasoning and why we were trying to do what we were trying to do, and, you know, the calls that we were making while we were making them. So,
Awesome. Real quick on casting, how was that process for you?
Yeah, so we put out a casting, or Indigo Child had put out a casting call, and we just got some really amazing talent. They both, Daniel's from Atlanta, actually, and he's an amazing actor, working on tons of great stuff. And we found him through that casting as well. And then we found Kiana, I believe through that casting, or she submitted or knew somebody. But with working with them, my goal as a director is always, because once we get to the shoot day, that should be not the easiest part, but all the decisions should mostly be made by then. So really that's supposed to give me time to work with them and communicate to them. So we went there, the day prior I was with Daniel, and we were walking through every scene in the house and saying, okay, tell me how you feel about this. Like, what do you envision it looking like? I always love to give them the room first and then jump in with my direction, because I think there's something so authentic, and I feel like you can see it when they're doing what they naturally would have done anyways.
And they don't know each other. They don't know each other. This project.
No, so we did some like intimacy kind of like exercises, because, you know, you're walking into somebody you've never met before. And though they are actors, it's still like, you know, you don't know them. So doing certain things like having them like hold hands and like push against each other, like that tension, because we're about to get into an argument scene. So it's like having them you know, kind of stand against a wall and like push the wall to like get that anger, and kind of like coaching them through that and allowing them to work through their own individual process. That was something really key to get the authenticity that you see, because if it wasn't for that, you know, it would have felt awkward. You know, before what we're doing takes where they're dancing. Okay, we're gonna play your favorite song before we actually shoot. Here's 10 minutes, like just dance, you know, and just had them like they're dancing to like, you know, their favorite songs and their favorite jams, and like that just built the chemistry. So it's not like they felt like strangers before then.
That's awesome. Any other thing that you want to point out with this? I know there's a lot that we can talk about, but we can go on for hours.
Man, I mean, honestly, this is just like the fruit of, like I said, all the things that I had been learning. So I think that the scheduling, like all of those things, the, you know, trial and error, all those things came in. But I'm trying to think if there's anything super specific.
I think one thing, and this again may be on the cinematography side, but one thing is coverage. Like it's not just the basic like reverse shot where you see them interacting with each other. Like you have these different angles.
Yes. Shotless,
how are you thinking about the shotless storyboard? And that collaboration again with Brian?
So one of the things that we kind of when I was building the treatment was like, okay, because these stories are so short, and because we want to get the point across fast, how do we get in and out of a long amount of time quickly? And Euphoria has an amazing camera transition that they did in their series where it wraps around. And I was like, man, that would be kind of hard, you know, if we were able to enter in and out of each scene with something like that. So when it came to shot listing, one thing I love is, of course, always shooting on the dark side, but I just love depth. I love warmth, and I love like an airy feeling. Like I love like the fog and like haze. And there's so many things that I see in this one, even watching it now and doing it after Hair Days, I'm like, my style hasn't changed. I just had more money to make the things happen. But yeah, so when it came to shot listing, and of course we had art, this was an empty house, so there was nothing in there.
Oh, really? So you brought everything?
Yeah, so we brought
You had an art director for this one too?
yeah, we had a art director, a set designer, and her team, and they came. The bedroom, there was nothing in there, like everything was bare. So they brought in the couches, they brought in the pictures, they brought in the bed. There was no bed. I mean, it was absolutely empty. And the crazy part is, I actually shot in this house after this on the movie I was on.
Really?
Yeah. So, but anyways, yeah, totally different.
It was just like a peer space, like rental. Okay.
Yeah, I think it was Gigster maybe.
Okay.
But yeah, totally empty house. So when it came to the shot listing, it was kind of, you know, you're trying to imagine something that isn't there yet because there's literally nothing in here. So one, walking through, for me, I'm somebody, I have to be in the environment to see it first. And when I'm not, I just know that's a part of my process that I have to make time to work in, is I need to be in the space and feel it before I actually film. So when we were shot listing, it was like, how do we add depth? How do we add character to something that is bare? What is the most intense moments? And how do we amplify that? But I think it's something to note is that it doesn't always start like this.
Yeah.
Even the edit, you know, it's 3 different films. It's the film that you know, the pitch. It's the film that you film and actually, you know, do the cinematography for. It's the film that you edit. Like, those are usually 3 different things.
Yeah.
So I had to be open to that. But Brian French was so great in our shot listing, and again, just amplified being able to give that airy feeling and that flashback or kind of to it, and how we were able to do that effectively while still putting in that tension and making it quick.
Yeah, that's awesome. And shout out to the art directors too.
Crazy.
Because this
Chrissy
is a crazy
Promo, oh my goodness.
transition.
So good. So good. So yeah, everything, they brought in everything. There was, counters were bare.
Even like these books that were on the
Yep.
in the
Not
reflection.
there. Everything was bare.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because you had to have the foresight to like know that was even
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah. So that's why it took a lot of like, that's why I say when it took me to another level, like the intentionality that we had to have was another level, because it was quite literally, I mean, they were about to sell it. Like, it was like completely empty. So,
That's crazy.
just having those little details, but then you work with it while you get on set, you know, you figure it out while you're there, and you move and you pivot.
How long did you have for pre-production on this one?
We had about a month, 6 weeks, I want to say.
Okay.
About a month to 6 weeks. I honestly can't totally remember.
Yeah.
It's kind of a blur, but I think we had about 6 weeks. We might have even had more. It's a terrible answer, but yeah.
No, that's solid.
Yeah.
Cool. No, this is great. I think there is a lot that we can break down with these, but no, I think this will be of great value to people who are trying to get into this narrative film world, but also, you know, in the space of just learning how to elevate the craft and just build these worlds in a different way. So no, this is a perfect example. Thank you, Tyla, for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
First of many, we're doing a lot of programming and educational content for our new membership platform that we have at the studio. So excited to continue to build and do more projects together.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I just want to say this now is like what you guys are doing in Charlotte and having this space and doing production notes, like doing all the events, the workshops, like you guys are at the forefront in Charlotte of doing exactly what you're talking about. And a lot of people talk about it and say it, but you guys are action bearers of all of those things. So I want to give you guys your flowers for doing things like this, because, you know, it's rare to see people truly care and give unapologetically and give without feeling like they need to receive something back all the time. It's just to help. So big ups to Loyd Studios.
No, that means a lot. I appreciate it.